Earth is not what we've been told, and our past is not what we've been told. And we are more than we've been led to believe.
I agree.
And I think all that's being revealed right now. And
you already know what it is. It's your boy Laid Back with another reaction, another review, another episode. Hey, TikTok, you up to bat. Bah. It's your boy Laid Back. Welcome back to my channel. Hey, two things we got to do. You got to hit that subscribe button. I'm drinking this water. You already know what it is, man. Elevate more in 2024. Elevate more in 2024. Make sure you hit the like button. Make sure you hit the notification bell. Stay up to date with all the videos. We back with another TikTok reaction, man. We back, more conspiracy theories. A lot of this stuff gonna shake you up a little bit, you know what I'm saying? But look, we also need a new slogan for 2025. Make sure you drop yours in the comments. But you make it to the end of this one, you're a real one for real, man. Let's go ahead and get into it. Fire Squad, what's popping? Let's get it.
When people are against the Illuminati, then they get punched in the face all the time. The press hates them. Nobody likes them.
Remember how everyone was calling him crazy and a liar? Katt Williams has been given the title by GQ as the man who opened the portal.
Do your own research. Do your own research. What?
And he claimed that this would be the year of truth.
These are the truths they hide from you.
Yeah.
I risk my life to tell y'all these truths. I'm gonna tell you another one they'll have me crucified by the morning. Watch.
Title below says the man who opened the portal.
Whoa.
Now a lot of y'all gonna be like, oh, you overthinking it up. Listen, I am a conspiracy guy. A picture's worth 1,000 words. He's been in them circles. He's never left it. He's a warlock.
They can't threaten me. I'm already scared. The fuck?
They saying he was already in the circles.
Why are they allowing you to say we are in possession of something that was not made by human beings, but not to show these very compelling videos?
I don't think they have a choice. The cat's out of the bag. It's the worst kept secret at this point. There's a faction of people inside the government that do want this conversation to occur. But equally, there's still a faction of people that do not want this conversation.
What would be a good reason to keep this stuff quiet?
If I was a military person, there's three options. They're good, they're neutral, or they're bad. And let's say they're good. The problem is there's nothing to suggest that they truly are benevolent. They didn't stop us from dropping atomic bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. They didn't stop Chernobyl. They didn't stop Fukushima. So if they're not friendly,
right,
that leaves them neutral like us.
Right. Or benevolent.
Benevolent. Now, from a military perspective, we cannot prove that they're not here to do something bad. But what we do know is that from a military perspective, they have interfered with our nuclear capabilities. From a military perspective, that looks an awful lot like something we call IPB, initial preparations of the battle space, or perhaps even ISR, intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance. Whenever we're going to go into a foreign country and invade, we do long-range surveillance. We want to know how the enemy operates, how they react. So
they thinking that the aliens is thinking like the humans, like before they... Let's just hear.
Even if there's a 2% chance, 5% chance that these things are here to do something malevolent, what happens the moment that the bad guys in a foreign country find our surveillance team? We've got 12 hours to invade, because the element of surprise is now over. So some may feel in the government the mere fact of acknowledging this, if there is some sort of malintent, may push up artificially a clock for these things to say, uh-oh, they know we're here, we need to go in now, for whatever reason they may have. So that is the military mindset, potentially, of some of these individuals who want to keep this secret.
So they're worried about an actual invasion.
But they have to be. Even if there's a 1% chance, I respect that. I don't agree with it, but I can respect that. If that is the reason why, then I would say, okay, look, in your heart, you really do have the best interests of the American people. I don't think it's your decision to make. I think it needs to go to Congress. I think let the American people decide. I think America can handle the truth. I think America deserves the truth, and let the American people decide.
I agree with deserve the truth. Handle it.
Earth is not what we've been told, and our past is not what we've been told. And we are more than we've been led to believe.
I agree.
And I think all that's being revealed right now. And I think some of the most revealing evidence is not even on Earth, it's on the moon. and the moon itself. There's a growing body of evidence to suggest that the moon is an artificial body, that it was engineered. I just did a video on this recently, an interview. And I mean, it's fascinating. One of the things, I mean, it's so deep, I'm not even sure where to begin here. One of the first things that scientists noticed is, and we all know, the moon is covered in meteorites. Big ones, small ones, overlapping ones, but they will not go below a certain depth. They're hitting something that doesn't allow them to go below a certain depth.
Wow. I ain't never heard that before.
Yeah.
I see.
Memphis, the capital of ancient Egypt.
Right. Yeah, you're bringing what?
Perhaps that's where our new God will come from.
Yeah, no kidding. No kidding. Yeah, I wish that was funny. Yeah, okay, so I want to talk to you about alignment.
I wish that was funny.
Yeah.
Is this real?
Yeah, right.
Well, that wasn't creepy at all. That clip was from a very recent interview with Jordan Peterson and Musk inside of the Texas Gigafactory. You can go look it up right at the very beginning. I'm talking the first 2 minutes. Musk goes off topic and obviously makes Peterson feel super uncomfortable and awkward and starts talking about Memphis, Egypt, when in reality, as you can see, Memphis, Tennessee is where Musk has set up a XAI data center for God knows what. Now, what's honestly sad to me is that Elon Musk knows the Bible better than most Christians because, believe it or not, there is actually a specific passage that he is quoting from the Gospels when he's talking about Egypt the way that he just did. So I know you might be thinking that sounds a little crazy, but when you open up the New Testament, you see that the devil knows scripture really, really well. He just knows how to twist it just right. And same with all his people at the tippy top of the pyramid, if you know what I'm saying. So let's take a look at what Elon Musk was actually talking about because, yeah, it's in Matthew. So Matthew 24 is all about end times, the last days, which is what we're living through right now. And when you go to verse 26, Jesus literally tells us what we're supposed to be looking for. We're supposed to be looking for a false Messiah and an Antichrist under these circumstances. Therefore, if everyone's saying to you, look, this false Messiah, this miracle worker is in the desert, do not go out. Or look, he is in the inner rooms, do not believe it. So there's something that we should be watching out for here and paying attention to. Desert and hidden rooms, secret chamber, something like that. Now, going back to what Elon Musk said, when you actually take a moment to look at where ancient Memphis is inside of Egypt, you'll find that it's right next to Cairo and it's right next to the Great Pyramid of Giza and the whole Giza complex of those ancient ruins. And so the Smithsonian published this article just a year ago talking about how a hidden chamber has been found inside the Great Pyramid of Giza, and how even these thousands of years later, the Great Pyramid continues to have secret chambers, passageways, and different things inside of it. Could this be what Jesus was referring to and what Elon Musk was diabolically laughing about? Could this really be the location of where the Antichrist might appear in the future? As you can see, the little letter I right there, that's the secret chamber that was found recently, but they're not sure what it looks like quite yet. They're still mapping it out. They're still discovering it, but there's a lot still in this pyramid, including where you see letter A down there. There's what's called the bottomless pit. So, hey, you tell me. Let me know what you think. But this is looking pretty suspicious all of a sudden. Should we be looking for an Antichrist from Egypt? Now, obviously, I have my own opinion on this one, and I think this is exactly what we should be looking for. This explains mountains upon mountains of predictive programming, Hollywood movies, music, you name it, Freemason logos, different types of logos that have been used in different societies, secret societies and orders from antiquity. This would explain so much. If you want my full breakdown on this topic and much more, get my new book, Bible Prophecy Secrets, and I'll see you in the next one. God bless. Take care.
I don't know. Y'all let me know.
De Niro's building a $1 billion studio.
Damn.
How is that going to make money? What's the business plan? Is it over 30 years? That's my question.
De Niro's 81, isn't he? Like, what? How old is De Niro?
But that's what I'm saying. In the rating system of Hollywood, PG-13, rated R, which rating is the most profitable?
I would say PG.
Wrong. It's G.
PG-13?
The children's films that are animated stories like Cinderella are the most profitable in all of Hollywood, and yet they're 30 30% of the production.
Wow.
So why would the system make 70% of something that doesn't make as much as the 30%? Why? Because it's spiritual. Because the devil runs Hollywood. And he wants that negative 70% to teach your kids all these other things. But the 30%, which makes the most money, is happiness and loving your mom and dad, and they make the most money. Why would Hollywood make less of the most profitable?
That was good. That was good.
One of the weirdest ones was Ryan Graves.
Just interviewed him in Washington, D.C., and you know one thing that he told me that I was fascinated by? He said that the Admiral came in, I think it was in 2015, when they just gotten that one object that was kind of rotating, kind of like a disc-looking thing. He said that the Admiral came in, and he was like, oh, God, the Admiral's here, and they had a debriefing on it, and they were showing the videos, and the Admiral stepped in, and he took a look at it for 5 seconds, and it's much longer than 5 seconds. He shrugged his shoulder and it's kind of like, oh boy. And he walked out of the room. I was like, well, what did that mean? That means that he was very aware of this. This phenomenon's nothing new. It's been going on and they've known about it. But what can they do, right? They're stationary. They're in the air. He goes, they don't have to recharge.
That
They're
footage,
there 24/7.
is it the gimbal footage
Yeah.
where it turns sideways? The gimbal footage is fascinating.
Pretty-
You see it rotate.
Yeah,
You see it
that
do
was-
this thing that everybody describes.
Taken at night. This was Senator Harry Reid, former Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid told me this on camera. The evidence that's been released is just the tip of the iceberg.
Ooh. Ooh-wee.
What is the one fact about the universe that blows your mind the most?
There are a lot of things about the universe that I find it almost impossible to imagine. Well, actually impossible to imagine. One's just the size and scale of it. I mean, in the piece of the universe we can see, there are something like 2 trillion galaxies. We haven't counted them all, but that's an estimate based on surveys of the local universe. 2 trillion, 2,000 billion galaxies.
Jeez.
And each galaxy is, let's say, around the size of the Milky Way. Some are bigger, some are smaller, but the Milky Way has 400 billion stars in it. It takes light over 100,000 years to cross a galaxy. And there are 2 trillion of them in the piece of the universe we can see. And we're very sure that that piece that we can see is a small bit of what may be an infinite universe beyond. We don't know, actually. And I always say, don't get worried about that, because nobody can picture it. It is impossible to visualize the scale of the universe.
That's crazy.
Have you been shown the future in terms of a timeline for you?
When I asked about the future, what they told me is that the Earth has an electromagnetic field, right? That is like the aura or the energetic etheric body of its own, the consciousness matrix. Well, that electromagnetic field contains quantum waves of probabilities. They told me that the ones that are stronger are the ones that are the highest probability of manifestation in terms of physics into the physical matrix. And that's why people seem to read the future, to have that ability, because they're reading the strongest waves of quantum probabilities. But they told me that they're reading physics. They're not reading a factual event that is going to happen. It's not determined. It is a probability. So nothing is fixed yet.
Right now, I would say from 2020 to 2022, I've talked with dozens and dozens of people in the abduction syndrome. They can have positive or negative events, but all of them sense that we are headed toward some kind of huge depopulation of the Earth human population. Have you been shown or encountered any information about what is going to happen between now and 2030?
Sure. So they told me that the Earth has its own consciousness, and it's shared in an interval with all the consciousness, individual consciousness that of the beings that live in it, in its ecosystems. They told me that the Earth has decided that it's going to move into a higher density a more, let's say, evolved state of consciousness.
Like a fifth dimension.
Exactly.
But
What? The Earth just gonna move into a fifth dimension?
And I don't know how much people want to hear this, but
they want to hear it.
It will keep you awake at night. I mean, if you have children like I do.
Coming to my mind right now is remote viewing.
Yes.
Is that involved in this?
It's, but in a very high-tech way, technologically. This, where when you start experimenting with and reverse engineering an extraterrestrial vehicle, their communication systems are not based on the speed of light like our cell phones, right, or video. They're based on this understanding of the cosmos because they've lived for millennia in that understanding. Technologies that interface with directed thought. I call it technology-assisted consciousness, and consciousness that assists the technology, so they can interface bioelectric field and thought, and they navigate the spacecraft. The speed of thought versus the speed of light.
Yeah.
But think about why that's so important. If you're from the Andromeda galaxy, which is 2.5 million light years from here, at the speed of light, your cell phone, it would take 2.5 million years for a signal to get there, and another 2.5 million years for them to answer, and you hear it. It's 5 million years. There are certain technological thresholds you have to have crossed if you're an extraterrestrial interstellar civilization. And physicists have estimated that the volume of space in a coffee mug has enough potential energy to boil off all the oceans of the world. Tesla called it the infinite energy field. But as soon as you step into the reality, the three-dimensional reality of these UAPs and UFOs, you immediately begin talking to people, and this is what happened to me in the early 90s, to people who know the physics of the energy systems, because these things are not using oil, gas, coal, nuclear, what have you. They approached me, and this is the fall of '93, just before I briefed CIA Director Woolsey, and they said, look, you don't need to be talking. They knew all about this meeting that was going to happen. And you don't need to be talking to the president and the CIA director about this. They don't know anything, and they're not going to know anything. If you want to know, you talk to us. We're the WFO. We're the work for other contractors. We're the people who are working on these technologies and doing the technology transfer. And then they were trying to convince me to side with what they were doing. And I said, no. I said, this is a corrupt enterprise. And then he offered that, he says, you're a doctor, you can take out as many credit cards as you want. We'll zero them out each month because we run the supercomputers that back up the entire banking system. And we can get an infinite amount of money through certain techniques.
Wow.
The man, I said, then you're going to own me, aren't you? Because he says, no, we're just trying to help. He said, all these. This is an absolutely true story. He put me under sodium pentothal lie detector. Now, if you look at quantum entanglement and the concepts of the universe being a holographic conscious entity, which it is, then you start talking about not just material, but you're also talking about other dimensions that are at refined levels of frequencies and vibration. But it's not like it's some distant place. It's folded with zoom in on it. The entire image would be in there, and zoom in again. It's holographic. The cosmos is this conscious quantum hologram. And so there are many, many, many dimensions.
He lost me on some of the stuff he was talking about.
The story, in one of the times when I explored actually the base in Antarctica, they had psychic soldiers. So when I remote view, I'm never usually seen by humans or soldiers.
But they can see you.
So they had these soldiers who were also remote viewing the base, I guess to protect it from remote viewers like me. And this one ended up seeing that I was, going through the halls of this Antarctic base, and he went like this, and he kicked me all the way out of the base, and he proceeded to follow me to figure out who I was, if I was belonging to a government.
Why are you here?
Exactly.
Right?
And so I had to kind of pop in and out of many different locations to kind of lose him. But that, there's been some moments very similar to that have freaked me out a little bit, where I'm like, ooh, I got into a position where I shouldn't have been.
Remote view, I ain't never heard of that.
There is a thing about a guy who used to work in the Navy in the 70s.
Uh-oh.
They place an acoustic sensor device all throughout the ocean floor in the certain areas. This was to map the ocean floor, detect submarines, and find other anomalies and stuff. The technology covers a large portion of the ocean floor and has given the Navy an amazing perspective of their underwater terrain. And then it says one of the contacts while in the Navy who worked on the ASW team who was responsible for monitoring the sensors and everything. They would discuss underwater submersible objects that detected that would travel at thousands of miles per hour underwater.
What are you talking?
He said they also have detected various structures underwater that are active and that they stay clear of. And so those might be like volcanoes or whatever,
Okay, yeah.
but they're detecting actual anomalies.
That was in the 70s? They were tracking this stuff?
When they place the sensors devices in on the ocean floor.
That is so cool.
So,
you know how you get stoked about space?
Yeah.
I get stoked about the ocean.
Dude, the ocean freaks me out way more than space.
And it makes me wonder, like, because they always say, like, 95% of the ocean isn't discovered. But it's like, is there a reason for that? Or is it kind of like, we get it?
Thousands of miles per hour.
Why is it in every Netflix documentary or Netflix movie?
Yeah, they have to. There's an agenda.
Oh, you believe in the agenda?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
So the music industry and the Illuminati and the movie industry and all these organizations or cults, whatever you want to call them, are involved.
Most likely.
Right? Let me tell you something you probably noticed as well. Do you notice that every time around every famous person, there's always somebody but the main character, somebody around the main character that changes gender? I'll give you examples right now. Bruce Jenner, Caitlyn Jenner, right? She's not the main character of the Kardashians. She's around Kim.
Yeah.
Changed genders. Zaya Wade, the daughter of the NBA superstar, changed gender. Apparently a he now. Mr. Beast. It's not Mr. Beast that changed.
Yeah, it's one of his friends.
It's Chris. His friend, right? Elliot Page from Inception.
Ellen was,
She's not the main character. She's around the main character. Changed her gender. Elliot Page is not a woman anymore.
Yeah, true.
She changed her gender. I feel like this is a PR stunt, man. They choose somebody but the main character. Somebody that is around the main character.
That influences the main character that is around them.
To change the gender. And they want the main character to accept that. What if Mr. Beast did not accept Chris's gender change, or the Kardashians couldn't accept Bruce's change, or the NBA superstar Dwayne Wade didn't accept his daughter Zaya's gender change? You know, it would have been catastrophic.
Of course.
People were going to be canceled. I feel like all of this has been shown. Like, bro, it can't be. Chris was married. He has a son.
I know.
What? He's wearing heels and has makeup on. What happened?
Look, I mean, at the end of the day, like I said, for me, I have this kind of approach where live and let live.
Yeah.
Live and let die, even in this case. I don't fucking care.
There's also a conspiracy theory about a movie that came out recently too.
What movie?
The Sound of Freedom. That whole thing is trying to give awareness about child right? There's theories. Everyone who's gone into movies to watch it, the movie theaters have teamed up.
They stopped it.
Yeah, trying
What?
not to sell tickets, trying not for people to watch it.
Yeah, yeah. Wow.
I've seen one where it's like, oh, the person tries to buy tickets. They said it's fully sold out. Goes in the movie theater, nobody there.
There's no one in here.
What?
And then it said that they were sold out.
Another one, the guy comes in, he's like, oh, we have to download the movie. It's gonna take an hour. We can give you your movie back. Like, you guys can walk out. Fam,
They're like
that
trying to.
never happens.
They're trying to stop them from watching it.
Exactly. And the two main ones they have been doing, turn off the AC so it's hot as hell in there.
wow.
And then
Just to let you guys know again, it is gonna get hot. It is gonna be like a whole movie.
So why is it only this one though, not all the other ones?
the movies usually,
Yeah,
dim
yeah.
the lights when it goes on. The lights stay on the whole time, and people complain.
So they don't want to stay there and watch the whole thing. There's a deeper conspiracy onto that.
I ain't never heard of that.
What do you think's more probable? That they traveled through space to get here? Either through another dimension or that they're here already? Maybe living under the ocean?
We have all three. Everything you just said is accurate. I think we have under the ocean, that there's people living here that have been here for a very long time. I believe that they have their own breakaway civilization. The oceans are pretty much mostly just undisturbed. I think you also have multidimensionals. Beings that are in higher dimensions or other dimensions that know how to match their subatomic frequency to our particular dimension, and they can walk right right in or fly right in or come right in some type of way. And then also I believe that you have beings that are light years away that can travel here. And I don't think that they're using typical space travel. They're probably using something like a warp drive, where in a warp drive what really happens is you actually shrink space in front of the ship and you expand it from the back. So in essence you're sitting on a tablecloth and then somebody's pulling the tablecloth. And so you're riding the tablecloth. You never really go anywhere. A warp drive, you never really move. And we've tested the warp drive now. We've actually got a functioning and working warp drive in the laboratory, created a real warp bubble.
I don't think they're doing that. They're doing their own thing.
What is the % chance that aliens have already found out about Earth and who we are?
I'm not authorized to comment.
You are authorized.
Here we go.
Okay.
So aliens may be vastly more intelligent than we are because they figured out how to get here.
Correct.
And we haven't left low Earth orbit in 50 years. So the question is, why would we think they would be interested in us at all? I remain unconvinced that we've been visited by aliens. We have high-resolution images of the surface of Mars. We have images from the edge of the universe. Oh, and by the way, the panorama on Mars was taken by an SUV-sized rover. Let
them know.
We have this high-resolution imagery of all these places in the universe, and the best you have is a fuzzy, monochromatic tic-tac, and you want to say those are visiting aliens? If that's the best you have, we have more work to do here.
Do you have an opinion that there's some technologies are being kept from us just because as a human race we're not ready for them yet?
People think, especially the government, has all these secret things and their secret capabilities. Have you ever worked for the government?
I try not to.
The level of incompetence and the inability of anything to remain a secret that has any tasty elements to it at all is near as...
That's downplaying. That's completely downplaying it. Nah.
Zero.
I think about that with the moon landing. A lot of people are like, oh, it's fake. That would have leaked a long time ago.
Okay, yeah, so you'd have to fake not only all the imagery in the 1960s, you'd have to fake the millions of pages of engineering diagrams for the Saturn V rocket, the warehouses in which they were stored. But here's the best that I heard about this. The government goes to Neil Armstrong and said, Neil, we don't know how to get you to the moon, but we have to pretend we did. So what are you going to do? We're going to get some Hollywood people and we're going to stage it. In order to fake it, what we'll do is we'll shoot it on location.
That's funny.
We really just need teleportation.
I cannot begin to tell you how game-changing that would be. But it's not teleportation you're after.
Yes, it is.
What you really want is the power to open a wormhole anytime in any place. On Star Trek, they go into the transporters and they beam somewhere. If they had Rick's power of portal, they just open a portal, step through, and you are where you need to be. You're not teleported. You just step through a wormhole. The day you can do that, there are no airports. There are no roads. Because wherever you are, you just walk through the portal and you're there.
The age-old question is, if you could go back in time, you have Wi-Fi somehow, and you have a smartphone, how long would it take you to maybe take over civilization?
If I carry what I know today back in time, you could easily take over the world. First, you just know what the markets did. Within a few months, I could just become the richest person in the world.
I just wonder how fast you could speed up society, just you individually. You go back with all your knowledge.
So you can't. I'll tell you why. Because a lot of bits and pieces have to come together. And they're brought together by innovative, imaginative people. The smartphone, for example, was not a discovery under a rock. Apple developed hardly anything that's in the smartphone. Apple did not invent GPS. They did not invent solid-state storage. They did not invent touchscreens. Touchscreens were invented at the Library of Congress by someone who wanted people to be able to tour the place, and you could touch the screen and navigate maps of the Library of Congress for tourists.
Y'all know what this is right here? This is a painting from 1650. Look at the knights right there. Look right here at the bottom. Looks like lightning, doesn't it? As you can see in this picture right here above me, looks like electricity going everywhere. Lightning, so to speak. Allegedly, what they were doing was the same thing this guy right here did, Tesla. Harnessing the ether. This is how it would look in modern day. So y'all just keep this in mind. This was a video, but y'all get the point. Looking like Stormbreaker right there. But as you can see, you see they're fighting and you see the lightning coming out. Then if you look at a lot of the old weapons and stuff like that from way back, 500, 1,000 years ago, it sure makes you wonder. Like this sword right here, it almost looks like a spark plug, so to speak.
Yeah.
Just saying. Then we got the staffs or whatever. Then we got these dudes in the Faraday cages. So you look at this and you're like, holy moly, why so decorative? Why all that? They're just going to fight. If they were harnessing the energy from the ether, from the electromagnetic energy, Right there, you see that little thing on top of his head? Looks like a pretty good lightning rod, doesn't it? Here's one of the shields from back in the day. Y'all take a good look at that. Stuff like this right here, they would charge up and the lightning would allegedly shoot out.
Whoa.
Just saying. I know it sounds crazy, but keep an open mind. Take a look at that right there, too, while you're keeping an open mind. This was outside. Look at all that electricity going through it. This was in 1650.
Crazy.
There can be no time travel because so far, no one from the future has ever shown up and said, hi.
What that requires is that there's no time travel to the past, because the future person would then be coming to the past. We can travel into the future, however. Our understanding of that has been around since 1905, and it's Einstein's special theory of relativity. If I send you on a spaceship at speeds nearing the speed of light, and we watch you, we will see that your clock ticks more slowly than our own. And then you come back, it's the famous twin study. You send out your twin, they can come back, you aged 20 years, your twin would have aged only 10, depending on the exact speed. And so in that way, your twin went into the future. Now, you're right about the past. We don't know yet how to go into the past. There's some peculiar solutions of Einstein's equations that allow past travel, but then you can't interact with your life. You're in sort of another place. Because imagine if you could interact with your own life. Prevent your parents from meeting. Then you would never conceive. Then you could have never been sent back in time to prevent your parents from meeting.
Crazy. Crazy.
This is where it gets really freaky. Albert Einstein says, I'm not sure which weapons the Third World War will be fought, but the Fourth World War, they will fight with sticks and stones.
Yeah, I've heard that.
That's what Albert Einstein said. Day one of AI taking over. And it showed this like laboratory towards this very highly advanced artificial intelligence, but it was contained to its own server. AI figured out with like a Roomba vacuum that's the only thing it could figure out how to connect to. So it put all of its information onto the Roomba computer, and then that allowed it to connect to the Wi-Fi, which allowed it to connect to everyone's phones, everyone's laptops, spread instantly across the whole world. Now it was in control of power plants, all this stuff.
Geez.
It was in control of 3D printers, of manufacturing things to help build itself.
Yeah.
But it was doing it silently with no one knowing because it was just staying under the radar until the one time it was like 40 days into it, it decided, yep, I don't want humans anymore.
What?
Nobody builds something that big underground just for fun.
Check this out. Give me some volume on this.
The Longyu Caves, located in the village of Xian Beichun in Zhejiang Province, China, are a massive and majestic ancient underground world, as well as an ongoing mystery that has confounded scientists from every discipline that has researched them. 24 hand-carved caves encompassing a staggering 30,000 square meters have been found so far. Despite their magnitude and the work required to build them, no indication of their construction, or even their existence, has been discovered in archival sources.
Wow.
Despite the fact that the whole excavation involved about 1 million cubic meters of stone, there is no archaeological evidence explaining where that amount of stone went, nor is there evidence of the work being done. Furthermore, there isn't a single historical source that mentions them, which is extremely remarkable given the scope of the undertaking. Despite decades of analysis, the Longyu Caves mystery remains essentially unsolved.
I think we burrowed in. We had to. That's like an ancient survival shelter.
Well, they have them in Turkey as well.
That's weird.
The creepiest story I have ever heard is an unusual case where it is scary if it actually happened, and if it didn't happen, it's probably even scarier. If it doesn't seem like that makes sense, allow me to explain. So you've seen this depiction of aliens before, right? With the big black eyes, they sometimes call them grays. Well, those aliens and the entire concept of being abducted onto a UFO and then put on a table to be examined with probes and things like that, all of that came from a single story. In the 1960s, a couple named Betty and Barney Hill claimed that that happened to them. They were the very first. It is my personal opinion that they were not, in fact, abducted into a spaceship. I think the reality is weirder than that. It was September of 1961. The couple lived in New Hampshire. They did a road trip up to Niagara Falls, then to Montreal. Then they were driving back home late at night. On the way back, while driving through some mountains, they saw a light in the sky that seemed to move around the sky in an erratic pattern. They kept stopping and getting out to try to get a closer look. The light, they said, eventually came down right on top of their car, and then their memories kind of become scrambled. They were missing some time because by the time they got home, it was almost dawn, like they had lost a couple of hours somewhere. Then in the following weeks, she would start to have dreams of her and her husband being led through the woods to a craft. She starts reading about UFOs, kind of trying to research it and figure out what had happened to them. But it's important to note that they did not go to the press. They didn't tell really anybody. They did not try to cash in. They didn't write a book. The only people they told was the local Air Force base saying, hey, we think there's something in the sky. Then a couple of years later, she seeks out a hypnotherapist to go under hypnosis and try to recover the memories of that night. And then they both recover memories of the big-eyed aliens with the big black eyes, of being put onto an exam table and having needles pressed into them. Under hypnosis, he starts screaming, saying that it felt like a pair of eyes had been pressed into his brain from the outside to see inside of his mind.
What?
And it is from that, from those sessions and from their drawings they made, that we get this, the gray. These aliens that you can now see everywhere, from Close Encounters of the Third Kind to South Park. So what do I think happened? People have retraced their trip down Route 3, and at the exact spot where they saw a light in the sky, there is an observation tower with an aircraft warning light at the top of it. It's a winding mountain road, and as you wind back and forth in pitch darkness, the light seems to go from one side of the sky to the other in an erratic pattern. They had been driving all day. They were utterly exhausted. They had just stopped at a restaurant to down some coffee to try to stay awake to get home. They actually hadn't planned to do that. They just didn't have the money for a hotel, and they were trying to get home before some bad weather came in. The dreams Betty had about being led through the woods were just dreams. They weren't memories coming back to her. And the memories they recovered during hypnosis, well, you actually can't recover memories during hypnosis. That's pseudoscience. What you can do during hypnosis is implant a memory. People are highly suggestive under hypnosis. As for the big-eyed aliens, well, 12 days before they went in to do their hypnosis sessions, a sci-fi TV show called The Outer Limits ran an episode featuring aliens that looked like that. Again, this was not an intentional hoax. The story would only go public years later against their will. But once it did, there was a book, there was a movie, there were articles and interviews. And in the decades since, thousands of people would claim to have been abducted, usually by these Greys, usually following the same template as Betty and Barney Hill's story. But all of these only happen in places where they have access to television and movies.
Wow.
At the time they had their experience, the concept of being abducted by a UFO was basically totally unknown. Now everybody is aware of it. Most people believe that Earth has been visited by aliens due to stories like this. So the story is very, very creepy if true, obviously. But if it's not true, then that means that there is something that billions of people believe all around the world. Some people believe it mind, body, and soul. That you have an international cultural myth that might persist for centuries. And at the heart of it, you have nothing. Just a couple of sleep-deprived people who worked each other into a panic, and then one woman had a dream, and a guy saw a TV show, and accidentally created an idea so compelling that it spread all around the world like a mind virus.
The government said aliens exist, though.
Ask Neil to disprove the flat Earth theory.
Are you ready for this?
Yeah.
Okay. In the Burj Khalifa, the tallest building in the world, all right, the beginning of Ramadan, all right, where during Ramadan, you fast during the day and you eat at sunset, okay? Do you know that they issue a report, they issue a table, depending on what floor you're on, it's a different time that the sun sets. So if you had a higher floor, you have to eat a little later than those who live on a lower floor. And that can only happen if Earth is round. Because the Earth is setting beyond a round edge. Okay?
Okay.
And not only that, and I did this back when we had a World Trade Center, so it was perfectly positioned facing Jersey. I have photos, and you can watch the sunset up the World Trade Center. It goes 1 floor per second.
Wow.
And so it's 107 flights up. So it would take about 2 minutes for the sun to fully set for those looking beyond the curvature of the Earth.
Y'all believe in the flat Earth theory?
I don't care what you say. Jim Carrey is the wokest actor.
I don't think we can afford to assume that the people who are charged with our public health any longer have our best interests at heart all the time.
I say, why would a doctor not want to know more about something that could save a life or prevent a disease? I don't understand.
The AAP is financed by the drug companies. Medical schools are financed by the drug companies. This is a huge business. Vaccines are the largest growing division of the pharmaceutical industry. $13 billion.
They control medical schools.
For years now, talk show hosts, people on television, people in sitcoms have been hired by the government to throw you off the track, to distract you, to make you laugh and stuff like that, make you happy and docile so you don't know what's really going on. You know, and they just start making stuff up. Yeah. Like that Neil Armstrong guy. Have you seen him on the talk shows? Neil Armstrong, you mean the first man to walk on the moon? Talk about a fish story. Yeah. Man, and they're buying it. Okay.
Wow.
I wanted to find the most meaningless thing that I could come to and join, and here I am.
They're
I mean,
celebrating.
you gotta admit it's completely meaningless.
Well, they say they're celebrating icons inside. Do you
Celebrating
believe in
icons, boy, that is just the absolute lowest aiming, possibility that we could come up with. It's like icons.
He different.
Antarctica. It's official. There's nothing down there. You can clearly see this water is empty, and hence the rest of the continent must be as well. Like, is that Nah. There's no way. It's definitely just a case of pareidolia. You know, the human tendency to see faces in everyday things. Despite dozens of retired Navy officers who were stationed in Antarctica coming out and exposing what they really saw down there. Because of course, who could forget about this pyramid-shaped mound under the snow, cut with incredible precision and perfectly aligned with northeast-southwest. But it's just a mountain for sure. There's a lot more like this, so I guess it's just a common natural rock formation down there. Even aerial shots irrefutably prove they're just normal mountain ranges. How dare we even suggest that there might be something more going on in Antarctica? Here we have a satellite photo of some sort of disk that appears to have crashed and 4 other large objects surrounding it. Some claim it's a UFO crash site surrounded by some sort of surveillance units, but it's clearly just a near perfect triangle, also with a crash landed appearance with an oddly familiar shape. Nah, there's no way. Yet another disc shape up in the Antarctic mountains, and yeah, rocks, definitely, 100%. Interesting that the 1946 Operation High Jump in Antarctica was rumored to have ended early due to flying disc-shaped crafts scaring the Navy out of the area. 14 years later, the Antarctic Treaty is signed, heavily restricting exploration of the continent. This strange, long shape under the snow, another seemingly crash-landy looking site in an oddly similar shape as Oumuamua, a rumored derelict spacecraft that passed through our solar system in 2017 and was later dismissed as just being an asteroid, despite it having almost no characteristics of an asteroid, but I'll cover that another time. To be fair, this one may have just been a boulder that rolled down a nearby cliff. Hey, we just debunked that bit. But some of these other satellite finds are a little less explainable. Like, why are there over 60 monolithic objects lined up deep in the snow in a place that has allegedly never hosted intelligent life? Even more structures in the snow up to 70 feet tall that almost resemble buildings of sorts. And another, even more interesting, triangular shaped structure nearby with a similar height. And of course, the holes. Oh, the holes. Reports of holes everywhere across the South Pole. Like in 2007, Google Earth revealed a 250-foot wide hole with what looks like stairs leading into it. A few months later, it disappears from satellite view. Then in 2019, it reappears but looks totally botched and in lower quality than the image from 10 years ago. But my friends, as we know, that's barely even the tip of the tip. There have been just countless reports of holes in Antarctica heading deep beneath the surface. There's the story in Richard Byrd's diary of the glimmering underground city city he flew into in 1946 that I covered in a previous video. Then a retired Navy SEAL who goes by the name Brian spoke out about a mission he went on in Antarctica in the 1980s. While flying over a no-fly zone, he saw a 300-foot wide hole in the ice with tracks around the area leading into the hole. When he got back to his station, an officer and two men in suits interrogated him about the no-fly zone violation. The men in suits tell him to never talk about that hole again and to never go back. A few months later, he's told to fly scientists to the Dome, which was a known research station back then. There, he overheard people talking about the hole, saying they're going there to meet visitors.
It seemed to me they were talking about like an extraterrestrial or an alien, because they didn't refer to them as a person, it was a visitor.
The rumors claimed these holes were entrances to underground bases where humans and these visitors cooperated on highly classified projects. Then more testimonies started rolling in. In 1985, another medevac flight over the no-fly zone saw a giant hole as wide as a football field. Men in black suits later came to tell them they never saw it. 1990s, Navy flight crews reported silver discs zipping over the Antarctic mountains at impossible speeds all the time, told to never speak of it. In 2002, a film crew called Atlantis TV flies down to the South Pole to shoot a documentary about these holes. They allegedly film actual footage of a massive ancient city buried beneath the ice of Antarctica. Sound familiar? Then they went missing, of course. Navy rescuers found their camping equipment and even recovered their tapes. They played them to a few scientists and, according to rumors, showed spectacular ruins of a lost civilization and were told to never speak of it, including an ancient pyramid temple complex 2 miles beneath the ice with caverns bigger than Bermuda. The US military confiscated the tapes, Atlantis TV sued them, lost, and then went out of business. Then this happens. A Navy commander codenamed Spartan 1 who was stationed in Antarctica exposes all of his classified reports in an interview. In 2003, while flying on an extraction mission, his Navy SEAL team notices the top of a structure in the shape of a tall black octagon in the snow below. They land, walk up to it, and come up to a door over 20 feet high with strange markings of what looks like a star map and other strange glyphs. The star map looks like a pulsar map, a mapping technique used by NASA that shows the location of a sun relative to known pulsars. The Navy team enters the building and it's huge, a room about 10 acres across, which is like 7 football fields. The walls were all illuminated with a soft green glow, but no visible light source. And also on the walls were more carvings, similar to Egyptian or Mayan hieroglyphs, but also way different. There was a ramp inside that led deep beneath the ground where the rooms got even bigger. According to scientists that explored these sites, these lower levels were occupied by humanoids. Humanoid beings, far superior in strength and knowledge, and are the ones who actually created humans. Anunnaki, anyone? At least that's what Spartan 2, another US Marine whistleblower, claims, adding, and I quote, "Antarctica contains wonders beyond what most can comprehend. It has ties to space and technology beyond belief." There are even reports like this one that giant alien bodies have been spotted beside entrances to caverns. This whole story is part of Spartan 1 and 2's confession tapes, which, yes, sure, they might be making it up, but they sure ain't the only ones. Contractors like Eric Heckler have also exposed insane technology they're experimenting with down there, and that's another topic that'll blow your load. But you can actually fly to Antarctica if you wanted to, so why doesn't anyone just do that and examine these sites firsthand? Well, the area designated for tourist travel down there is limited, like extremely limited. Going there and declaring Antarctica a barren wasteland with nothing to see would be like going to Las Vegas and claiming all of America is just a giant desert. And remember, just a theory, but I'm sure Google will tell you all about how all of this is 100% confirmed fake and we should mindlessly shame anyone who dares question it.
Very interesting. Very.
Have you heard of people experiencing the Oz factor? So the Oz factor is kind of like how its name implies. It's like whenever Dorothy accidentally goes into like another realm or dimension whenever the tornado happens in The Wizard of Oz. So that's what the Oz factor means. It means that people can accidentally disassociate so hard that we accidentally cross into another dimension or nearby realm or like a place between universes. Lots of examples of people experiencing this say that they may be like in the woods or on a hike in the middle of nowhere, and all the sounds like birds or animals or streams just suddenly goes away, and then everything becomes distorted or everything starts to look or feel kind of weird. Others say they may be like walking around in public and then all their interactions start to be really weird between people they interact with on the street, or like if they go into a building it might have no workers and be kind of like a liminal space. And that's basically what the Oz factor is. Let me know if you've experienced it in the comments. I'm really interested to see what you guys say.
Never heard of that before in my life. Never.
What's a conspiracy theory that no one can convince you isn't true because somehow it just makes sense?
I'll go first. All ancient civilizations were somehow connected. There are so many unexplainable similarities between civilizations that just never connected. And by that I mean they were literally oceans apart. I mean they weren't exactly going to jump on a Boeing 747 back in the day. Now I'm not even going to touch on the fact that everyone and their grandmother liked to build pyramids that were in the same shape as Orion's belt. Or that their gods that they worshipped were incredibly similar. So I'm going to focus on these bad boys. Now when we think of these heads, we think of the tiny island in the middle of the ocean 2,000 miles away from any landmass. The infamous Easter Island. Now these megalithic heads are known as Maui. Now only recently did we discover there's not just the heads, and there's actually 30 feet of a body buried underground on each statue. The first sus moment is the fact that all 30 feet of body is buried under tons and tons of sediment. Now scientists have actually asked the question, is it possible for this much sediment to build up in only 700 years and cover 30 feet of a body on a remote island? That was really hard to say, but basically no, they don't think it is. The second sus moment is the fact that ancient civilizations all had their own statues and they share a striking resemblance to the ones on Easter Island. And once again, Easter Island is 2,000 miles away from any landmass. Don't believe me? Let me show you. First up, we've got the cloud people of Peru. The bearded gods on Boa Island in Ireland. The statues in Mesoamerica. We have some in Mexico. Casually chilling in Indonesia. We have this one in Turkey. Also notice how in most of the statues, all of the hands are the same. And one in Göbekli Tepe. All from cultures who apparently never met. Now don't get me wrong, I don't have the answer to this conspiracy theory, but there just seems to be a lot of coincidences that just don't seem like coincidences. I'm excited to see what conspiracy theories you guys believe. Now share this with a friend to completely blow their mind. Now everyone with me.
30 feet. Crazy.
Did this guy just build a machine that generates infinite energy in his own garage? No, that's impossible, according to the first and second law of thermodynamics. Remember, the greatest innovations are made by those who dare question the facts. Well, that's just misinformation. This free energy wheel uses bottles whose water is continually poured down by gravity to endlessly spin the wheel. And this isn't the first time someone came up with this. In 1159 AD, an Indian mathematician named Bhaskara the Learned came up with a concept for this exact design, Bhaskara's wheel. It had curved reservoirs filled with mercury instead of water, but based on the same principle. He reasoned that as the wheel spun, the displacement of mercury would flow to the bottom of each reservoir in such a way that one side of the wheel would be perpetually heavier than the other, the imbalance causing it to spin forever. This is one of the first ever designs for a perpetual motion engine, a device that can do some sort of work forever without external energy applied, like a windmill producing its own breeze, or a light bulb powering its own solar panels, a magnet attached to a car pulling itself, or this man pushing a truck from inside the trunk. I think you can see why this wouldn't work. The physics behind it show that the moving parts that make one side of the wheel heavier also shifts the center of mass of the wheel downwards. What that means is it'll spin for a bit and then just swing back and forth until coming to a complete stop in practice. The reason it can't go on forever is due to the first two laws of thermodynamics. The first law is energy conservation. Energy can't be created or destroyed. And in a perfect world, if we can just put 100% of the energy a device produces back into running itself, this should be possible, right? That's where the second law stops us, entropy, which states that energy tends to spread out and dissipate in many different forms, like waste friction or heat as time goes on. So as the wheel moves through gravitational force, it experiences air resistance, friction, and waste heat, energy that is not put back into the gravitational force that is running the wheel and hence dissipates over time. It's why Newton's cradle doesn't go on forever, and why this wheel doesn't work. He even admits in his video that he had a battery in the wheel that kept it spinning. It's fake. But are there other designs for infinite energy engines out there that have been suppressed from the public? Inventors have tried over the generations to come up with the perfect perpetual motion machine, several variations of the original wheel, and even other creative ideas. And some of them actually kinda work. The first one ever made predates even Bhaskara, with Greek mathematician Archimedes in 200 BC, who discovered the displacement of water in his bathtub as he went inside it, allegedly inventing the word eureka at the same time. Obvious today, but this was a huge discovery back then, the Archimedes principle, which they tried to use to build the first ever perpetual motion engine in history. The Archimedes sphere was a round chamber with water and a buoyant ball attached to a metal rod inside. The metal rod drags the ball down and the ball pushes itself out of the water from buoyancy. I won't bore you with the math, but the calculations show that you could just spin this once and it'll go on forever due to Archimedes' principle. And in theory, it should, if it wasn't for pesky friction of the water on the glass and the waste heat of the spinning rod getting in the way, that leave the device as waste energy until it comes to a complete stop. But science didn't give up. We're gonna find a way to make this perpetual motion engine if it's the last thing we do. Like everyone's favorite mad scientist Nikola Tesla, who actually patented an unlimited energy machine in 1901 called the apparatus for the utilization of radiant energy, made from an antenna that you can make from plywood plywood, a sheet of foil, copper wires, and a capacitor to store the energy. The antenna should be placed up high, like on a roof, connected to the capacitor and grounded. The capacitor should charge up slowly from the luminiferous ether, electromagnetic waves from solar radiation, cosmic rays, and Earth magnetic poles. And it works, confirmed by many tests done online. It technically uses external energy to power itself, so not exactly perpetual, but did we just solve our world's energy crisis? Yeah, but you'd need a whole day of power just to charge your phone with an antenna the size of a football field. So not practical whatsoever, as we'd run out of space fast, but still cool, we're making progress. More recently, in 2021, German scientists demonstrated the use of what they called time crystals, a microscopic system of quantum particles that change state over time and can in fact theoretically go on like this forever. They don't generate energy, but also don't lose any either from expected friction or heat, which is huge for an object doing work. The main obstacle to perpetual motion were systems losing energy when doing work over time. This doesn't. They're still figuring it out, but oh, we're so close. We're gonna make this infinite energy machine, I tell ya. Because there's something in nature that actually does appear to violate the conservation of energy: black holes. This scientific paper states that the expansion of the universe can make certain black holes expand faster than the Hawking radiation they produce that shrinks them. I know, it took me a while to wrap my head around that. In theory, this process gains more energy than it loses, so if we could just take a black hole and stick it into an engine, that might work. Who knows, maybe we'll find new exotic forms of matter in the future that could bend the rules of perpetual motion to finally crack the code. Or maybe we already have. Enter zero-point energy, the suspected technology behind UFOs that provides seemingly unlimited energy, moves objects outside the realm of known physics, travels faster than light, and even through time. Powered by quantum fluctuations in space-time, particles that act like waves which blink in and out of existence, another highly suppressed field of research. Keyword here, quantum, because quantum can bend the laws of thermodynamics while still respecting them and doesn't need to obey classical physics. I'll go into this very soon, because zero-point energy isn't just game-changing, it's reality-changing.
Above my pay grade for sure. Way above it.
What if the push for electric cars isn't about saving the environment, but about controlling our freedom to move?
Ooh.
Think about it. Electric vehicles rely heavily on centralized systems, software updates, GPS tracking, and charging networks. Conspiracy theorists argue that this technology could easily be weaponized to monitor and restrict people. Imagine a future where your car won't start because you haven't paid a fine or traveled too far from your allowed zone. It doesn't stop there. Electric vehicles' reliance on rare earth minerals concentrates power in the hands of a few corporations and governments, creating a system where those who control the resources control the roads. While we're told it's about sustainability, could it be that electric vehicles are paving the way for tighter control under the guise of progress?
Very interesting.
All right, I'm gonna fuck y'all up with some shit on this one. All right, this is the Urbano Monte map from 1587. Excuse me. North Pole. No ice. No ice around any of these areas, okay? There's North America, South America, Africa, India, Russia, China. Okay, so very similar to this map. North America, South America, Africa, India, China, Russia. Okay? Only thing different, Australia. There is no Australia here because it hasn't been discovered yet. This is 1587. Australia wasn't discovered until 1606. So that's why that's not there. But my main question is, if this is a globe flattened out and this is on the bottom, right? What the fuck is this? There's no ice on it. And guess what? Antarctica hadn't been discovered yet. Antarctica was discovered in 1820. And if you look, well, look, there's an alligator. There's a camel. Warm weather animals. So, you want to explain to me, first thing, what the hell is this? All this land. And second thing, what froze them? What happened between 1587 and 1892 where those areas got frozen?
Good question.
The ultimate conspiracy theory is the earth is flat, it's a disc, there's a wall, and it's attached to a version of Christianity, which is very interesting.
It is. It's tied into Christianity, the 6,000-year-old theme. The earth is only 6,000 years old. The reason why people think the earth is 6,000 years old is because most of the tablets are 6,000 years old, and the Bible was written from the information that came from tablets. So that's as far back as anybody's quote-unquote knowledge seems to extend. That's where the 6,000-year-old theory comes from, but they've taken that thing and turned it into a religion. I remember one guy DM'd me, and he was going off and telling me he was going to shoot me in the head and all this stuff. And I said, let me ask you a question. If there's no atmosphere, then what are you breathing right now? He goes, what do you mean? Well, I'm breathing oxygen. I said, well, that's a gas. Gas doesn't exist. I said, well, then you should be dead then, because you're breathing a gas. I said, what else are you inhaling when you breathe? He goes, oxygen. I said, well, no, you're breathing in, helium, krypton, nitrogen. I said, you're breathing in all these other gases. Oxygen is only around 21% of that. Otherwise, you'd be dead. So he couldn't tell. I said, did you graduate from high school? He said, no. I said, I stopped talking. So that's when I realized, don't waste your energy on these people.
Yeah. All right, guys, so that was another TikTok compilation of creepy conspiracy theories, man. A lot of stuff in this video, a lot of UFOs, a lot of aliens, a lot of ancient conspiracy theories. Very, very interesting. Very interesting. But look, if you made it this far, you a real one for real. I need you to drop that in the comments, man. Hey, I got a TikTok playlist. If you into this stuff, you can binge watch, chill, and check it out. Have your mind blown. But till next time, self-love and positivity, Fire Squad. I got you and you know it.